Okay, it's 1:30. We'll call the finance meeting to order. And we'll start with the roll call.
Commissioner Leader,
Here.
Commissioner Blatchley, I'm here. Commissioner Eichelberger.
Okay, and then we'll open it up for any public comment. Desiree, there are folks on?
There are folks online, but no comments.
No comment at this time. Anyone in the room for public comment? There's not. We will move on to the approval of the minutes of the meeting from February 21st.
I'll move to approve the minutes.
Second.
It's moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. And we will roll right into the topics of discussion. First up, we have Mr. Stoner.
Sure. Commissioners, as you're aware, FPRs or food processing residuals is a huge topic for the county right now. At our last municipal advisory board meeting, we had several municipalities talk about the issue and their concerns that they've been hearing from residents. I know the board's heard from residents, the planning office, conservation district, likewise. I've heard from our residents and concerns over odor, water quality, pollution, quality of life impacts from FPR application in county. Following that MAB meeting, we received an email from South Middleton Township asking the county if we wanted to financially participate in an effort to investigate the legal, regulatory, and political framework of the FPR issue in the state. So I passed that notice on to the board. Corey Adams is with us today. He'd be able to provide some more input. I think this model would be very similar to the one that we followed with I-83 when we had the tolling issue. We had a coalition of municipalities in the county to express our concerns and look for solutions for the issue. So I think this model would follow closely along that successful model.
Did Corey want to provide any comment?
Yeah, there he is again.
Hi, Corey.
Hey, how's everybody doing? Thank you very much for allowing me to offer a couple comments. As Kirk has said, FPRs have been an issue, not only here in South Middleton Township, but elsewhere in the county. But what we've been hearing, though, it's also becoming an issue across the state. And it's actually entered the Shapiro administration's radar. Recently, Secretary of Agriculture Russell Rettig appeared at a hearing where he discussed this issue, and Representative Ecker was actually involved in that as well. So because of the growing impetus behind this issue, the impact that it's having here in South Middleton Township specifically, but also Cumberland County as a whole, that's why we've reached out to Saltzman Hughes, which is not only the township's solicitor, but because the firm and Brian Saltzman in particular, who specializes in environmental law, we asked him to get involved on this issue, both from a legal and a political aspect, to see exactly what could be done, whether it would require some kind of regulatory fix, a statutory fix, what have you. So as Kirk said, South Middleton, we're at the beginning phases of this. South Middleton is seeking a partnership. We're definitely going to be moving ahead on this, but we love to have partnerships from the county, of course, to protect both our mutual constituents, but also communities from around the county as well. So, and we've been working with Kirk, who's always awesome to work with, and he said that the commissioners would be open to discussing this issue. So that's why that's why we're here today, and we'd love to answer any questions or concerns. I do believe Brian Saltzman's also on the line. He could probably speak to this a lot more expertly than I could. But between Brian and myself, we'd be happy to try to answer any questions or concerns that you might have.
Well, Corey, I'll be very candid. I think our interest is not just South Middleton, but it's every municipality in Cumberland County. So it's my hope that we can get other municipalities to also join in this effort. And I understand that that's something that is going to be pursued. Is that correct?
Yeah, and of course, Brian Saltzman could speak to this just as well. But Saltzman Hughes, in addition to being South Middleton's solicitor, is also the solicitor in Dickinson Township and Penn Township, among others. But I know those two townships in particular are a little bit further along in the process and considering whether to join up with South Middleton in this whatever this is. Whatever this venture turns out to be. Saltzman Hughes is right now doing some due diligence and research work. And from what I understand, they've already been in discussions with some folks at the state level to start setting the plate, so to speak, and to move this process forward. I mean, Kirk Kirk is absolutely right. I mean, there's some experience in this in regards to the 83 tolling, which of course Salzman Hughes was the law firm that was involved in that as well. So I would imagine South Middleton wasn't part of that endeavor, but I imagine that this process would look very similar to that. But looking possibly to involve more of the legislature involved into it.
Thank you.
Kelly, with the board's blessing on this too, I think the planning department was intending to send notices to all the municipalities, our potential joining this effort and encouraging them to do likewise and contact Corey to get involved with it. I think we'll have other takers just from the MAB meeting and then the other discussions I've had with municipalities. I think there'll be other municipalities sign on to the effort.
So, and Kirk, I did a little bit of conversation with some folks in the legislature right now, and it's my understanding that they've taken kind of a two-prong approach, and I'm paraphrasing conversations, but that they are trying to press DEP to enforce what is on the books now while they do work toward a legislative change. So it's my hope that I guess through this effort, we would be able to help shape what that legislation looks like before they, while they are in the process of bringing that together.
Sure, I think you're right, Kelly. I sent a note around to the board earlier this week that there's a legislative fix underway. So as that starts, now's the great time for us to be involved in this so that we can help shape it with the folks that are on the ground that are seeing this firsthand and what you've heard from residents. And also our municipalities are also representing those residents. So we get this started now. I think we have a great opportunity to shape the legislation. So make sure that it turns out and has a solution that's going to work.
Thank you. Did anyone have other questions of Kirk?
So Kirk, you're looking for what exactly from us today? Because the message we put out is, going to impact level of participation.
So Gary, as we have it on the agenda, the estimated initial cost of the efforts is $34,500. What we're proposing to the board is to participate financially up to an amount of $17,250. That would be an equal split between South Middleton and Cumberland County, assuming no other municipalities joined in. If other municipalities join in, then I think we'd reevaluate at what level we would be versus the participation of other municipalities.
I guess my question on that is that doesn't leave much incentive for someone to join in and say, yeah, we'll throw money at that as well. So are we making their participation, Corey, maybe you can speak to this. So if we want Penn in, are we requiring that they pick up some of the tab as well?
I wouldn't speak on behalf of Salzman Hughes, but I think that's a fair assumption. If an entity or party is going to become involved in whatever this ends up becoming, I think we would expect them to contribute something to the cause. I can't speak to exactly what the percentages would break down. I suppose that would be something that would have to be worked out. But I do see Brian just unmuted his icon, so he may have some input on this.
So I think that's a fair question, Commissioner. So what we did in the I-83 case is actually we did a joint fee sharing agreement, which did break down percentages. So the answer to your question is if a Dickinson or Penn or whatever municipality joins, of course they would have to be joining with compensation as well towards that effort. I provided this initial phase one because the phase one is really laying the groundwork so everybody understands what the issues are and where things stand. And then it's really coming back and saying, okay, where do we really want to go with this? Meaning there's a lot of discussion as to what they're talking about in changing which statutes. I think it's probably going to be an amendment to the Solid Waste Management Act, but there's 3 different statutes in play. And it gets really down to how much preemption. The problem right now is there's a tremendous amount of preemption in all of those statutes relative to agricultural practices. And FPR, by amendment in the statutory process, basically allows this to be a normal agricultural operation. And I think everybody's really recognizing now this is not a normal agricultural operation. So, and it's really, as the secretary said yesterday, it's less regulated than how we regulate manure today in Pennsylvania. So that
yes.
kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
one
So,
thing that was
so to
discussed.
answer your question, anybody who joins is going to have to pay to join, and we'll do that joint fee sharing agreement. And how it looks for the county is what we did last time is just a special counsel agreement with the county to make sure that all the strategy that we're developing still falls under attorney work product and attorney client privilege, so that we can easily share it among all the clientele.
All right, thank you. That's very helpful. The other question I had was, as was discussed at Municipal Advisory Board, there's, this FPR is being used as a very broad basis, and there are some things that are objectionable. There are other items that are not objectionable. I would assume any of these legislative changes would take that into account. And secondarily, I've been asking for a while, do we have any read from the Farm Bureau on where they are on this? Because if we get partway down the road and everybody's on board, and suddenly there's opposition from Farm Bureau, you're going to see legislators falling away. You're going to see, others potentially pulling up the reins. So do we have a read on any of that?
So on our first issue, I think there is a general recognition. I'll jump out there unless Corey or Kirk want to answer that question. There's a general recognition, first of all, on what I would call agricultural, not agricultural, I call it vegetable products. Okay, like Adams County would be very concerned about that. For example, the land application of FPRs that essentially come from fruits and vegetables. That's really being seen as different, and has always been seen as different, but not regulated differently to this point, as what I would call raw meat processing, which creates a different anaerobic versus aerobic process in the breakdown. And that's one of the things you're dealing with when your odors and incorporation and over nutrification of your soils and all those other things. So the secretary, I think, it has a very firm grasp on that and understands that there is a difference. So I think that is going to be reflected as we move forward, because truly it is a different issue. So I think that's probably the best thing to to be addressing at this time.
And in terms of the Farm Bureau, are you?
Oh, great question. That one, I have worked closely with the Farm Bureau. I mean, I kind of grew up in agriculture, for what it's worth, and have worked really on many cases throughout the state, mushroom growing industry that I've represented and all the rest. So I've been pretty close to working with the Farm Bureau through that time. And that is going to be one of the, when I come back with the results of all this research and make recommendations as to where the county would be in all our municipalities, that is definitely going to be taking into account how the Farm Bureau views this issue. So your point's well taken. I can't tell you exactly where they are today. I know where the secretary is in recognizing this issue today, because he's come out and publicly talked about it at this point.
And if I could jump on that just for a moment, I've already had conversations with the folks at PSATs. Depending on which way this conversation right here goes, I'm going to reach back out to them again and let them know where we'll be proceeding. Obviously, PSATs and the Farm Bureau work on a number of issues, not always on the same side, but often on the same side as well. So I'll let them know, and I'm sure they've already been looking at this matter. But as soon as they know that there may be a grassroots action taking place, I'm sure they'll get involved, and they'll offer their resources as well.
I think one of the in response to Commissioner Eichelberger, one of the main issues of why we should be involved, or the clients want to be involved, is really comes down to how is this regulated ultimately? Is it a totally preempted issue, or is there going to be input at the county and local levels relative to even like some type of permitting process? And then, of course, how does that work in relative to the conservation districts? That's the complicated issue to work through, because I think if it's just left to a total preempted issue, meaning DEP is the only entity that really has any type of ability to enforce, I'm not sure if that gets us all the way where we want to be on a county and local level, because I think we'll probably be just talking about this 15, 20 years down the road again. So that's one of the most complicated issues, I think, from looking at this from a government perspective.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So I have a couple of questions. So I became aware of this late yesterday afternoon, that this was coming for a motion today before the board. I'm not against this, but what are we getting for $34,500? I mean, we haven't had those conversations, and when we entered into this agreement on the I-83 tolling issue, we had lengthy conversations with Salzman Hughes about what we would be receiving in terms of legal services, how long they thought this process would take, et cetera, et cetera. And we have, as far as I have not had that conversation with anyone. And so I'm not against it, but I'm not willing to contractually obligate the county on this today.
That's fair. Those conversations obviously did occur with South Middleton, and we laid out number of hours. We basically did it at our municipal hourly rate, as an estimate. And I did lay out all the different aspects of that scope of representation. So those are all fair questions, but of course it wasn't just a number, picked out of the air. And the other reason I did it this way was to really create a phased approach, was that it made more sense to make sure that, that right now, it's really until I know exactly where this, I've already started the process, obviously, so I've already been pre-active in this discussion about legislation and all these other things, but it was also about, are we going to get somewhere? It was a big part of it. So I think we are going to get somewhere, better than, status quo. So I think it is really worthy of moving forward on. So, but
Yeah,
I'd be more share all of that. We obviously did share all of that with South Middleton to get to the pricing and all the rest.
Yeah, and we'd be more than happy to share our insights with the commissioners to let you know some of the questions that the supervisors had. I mean, just looking at Salzman Hughes' track record, and Brian's a little bit more humble, but the firm's vitae. No need for me to go through it, but you do get what you pay for. And Brian, and to their credit, as Brian just alluded, it is broken down by a phased approach, and with deliverables and understanding along the way. So with the supervisors in the township were very comfortable understanding what we would be getting and what would be going into the process. But we can certainly understand any amount of reticence that other parties may have to this. So we'd be happy to have either further discussion, either offline or online, to work through this. So we'd be happy to do that.
Further discussion is certainly warranted, with not only with the township, but Salzman and Hughes. I mean, you have to come to us with what you want us to contract with. You have to come to us with your engagement materials. I mean, I really don't know what you're offering to do. And so I need to have that conversation.
Hey, Kirk, did you want to?
Yeah, so Brian, you had mentioned an engagement letter with the county. What I was anticipating, you would prepare that engagement letter, would also include the scope of services with that to share with the board, so you can clearly see what you're getting. And I think, that scope of services offering it now may be a little premature, because I know there's probably some confidential issues in there, the approach that you're going to use to do this, that may be attorney and client privilege type things that we would share with the board if they expressed an interest in moving forward.
So that's this was an expression of moving forward with partnering with more research, but knowing that the number that we may be ultimately committing would be up to this amount. And that, but my concern was not just to sit back and let South Middleton do something in a vacuum that is clearly impacting the entire county, and for us to be a part of that process along with any other township or municipality that wants to join in this effort. So I completely agree, Jean, that is definitely information that will be necessary. I took this step as, are we going to move forward and engage in this? And once we see who else may be engaging with us, then we would get into more detail.
Yeah, and I read it very differently.
Okay.
Because to me, this is a contractual obligation if we do this today. This is not investigated and determined if you want to spend $17,250 or less. We're doing it. And that's how I read this possible motion. That has me concerned that we would be engaging with the law firm without having our solicitor look at those materials, without really knowing the scope of services. That has me concerned.
And
I wish he was here and then he could tell me if I was on,
Well, he did write the agenda item,
okay.
and I believe our understanding was, just what Commissioner Nieder said, that this was really the first step in several steps, with the next step being, okay, you're interested, then we start working on setting those parameters, finding out if you need any other meetings, whether they be information sessions or executive sessions, to really hone in on what specifically would go into the engagement letter.
So just so I'm clear, okay, now we would not be under a contractual obligation until we actually sign a contract.
Correct.
But my understanding, if I heard this right, is Attorney Salzman, you are proceeding on behalf of South Middleton. Regardless, at this point, the question is, do we want to be part of your effort? Am I interpreting that correctly? Okay, and you anticipate that these other municipalities where you are the solicitor, who you presumably are going to approach, have a high likelihood of interest in this as well.
High likelihood. I think they'll be on their next agendas this month, actually. So,
Okay.
So the way we structured the not to go back to the I-83 relationship, but that's how we structured the same thing. It's a joint fee sharing agreement that occurs between the municipalities, and the municipalities are executing that. That includes a representation agreement with Salzman Hughes with a scope. And then there was a separate engagement agreement as special counsel to the county so that we could freely share all the information, which also had that additional scope in it. And then the county in that case limited itself to what it was willing to put towards the effort. So that's how that engagement was all. And we would use the same engagement agreement, like the form that was approved by Keith before, is how we would do the same thing with the county. So it's really the scope and getting in and meeting with you and talking about exactly what we are doing and have started on, and explaining, as I think Commissioner Foster said, the deliverables and when that's occurring. So, yep.
Right, in that vein, I guess I personally would be more pleased if the county would actually cap our contribution for this phase at 10,000, 12,000, and then we'll get a good read on how interested the others really are if they want to get us across the finish line. But I guess this phase has to happen before the next phase, and I would be open to the idea that maybe we wait until phase 2 to engage the others financially if we have to. They may want to have a little more solid direction on what our prospects are, but I'm just putting that out there as an idea. Board can do what they want to do with that.
I got to go back to this about this motion, and maybe there's a different way to frame it, but it says that, if I frame this motion, I would say I move to join with South Middleton Township to financially participate in an amount not to exceed $17,250. It sure seems to me like if we do that today, we've agreed to an amount not to exceed $17,250. And Salzman Hughes, when do you start billing us? The moment after we if I make the motion, we agree on it, is that when you start billing?
We've already pursued a lot of the work. The way, again, the case worked with ID3 was that it was really South Middleton it'd be South Middleton creating an escrow account, and they're the ones that manage it from there. When ID3 would happen was Camp Hill Borough was the one that managed the account, and then it paid out from there. So that it would be a similar type situation. It would be going through South Middleton. So South Middleton, to the extent that they, want to, for the costs they incurred up to this point, which has really been, I think they gauged us in the past 30 days, where we jumped in, if other people want to participate in that or not, I guess that'll be a discussion that they have with those other potential people that join in. So.
Am I not phrasing? I don't think I'm phrasing the question correctly.
I guess my thing is, Jean, we haven't executed a contract, and I think Kirk had to come up with some amount to put down before he's had conversations with, or these other municipalities. And right now, if it stands, if we were to enter into this, that would be a worst case scenario for the first phase based upon what's been projected.
Say that again.
So I believe Kirk had to have some number to place into this to know what maximum we would be willing to contribute. But the tricky part with that is we don't know if the other townships are going to be agreeable. And Gary, to your point, I guess they could sit back and say, you know what, let everybody else pay for it. But they have lost their voice in having what the issues they may be facing addressed. And it would be, and maybe I'm naive, it would be my hope that they would step forward in good faith, and also if they want to engage and participate in it, that they would do so financially. So I see this as, this is really Kirk asking us, do we want to participate with South Middleton at this point? If we do, that's the worst case scenario for phase one, which we would then be given information, more information on. But we are not contractually obligated. I don't view that as a contractual obligation at that point.
I'm worried about that financially participate. It's the financial part that is making me crazy. Thanks. Thank you. That makes me feel a lot better. Because if I say today, I would not do this with my own attorney. I would not sit down with my own attorney and go, well, yeah, financially, I'm going to financially participate with you, and you're not going to tell me what you're delivering. You're not going to tell me what work you've already done. You're not going to give me your hourly rate. I'm not comfortable with that. I am comfortable with what Stacy just wrote. Okay. And this would change the scope, I think, of what we're doing today a little bit. So it would be a possible motion to negotiate a contract with South Middleton Township to financially participate in the effort to research and investigate the legal, regulatory, and political framework. So it's to negotiate a contract, which takes some of the heaviness off of it. But that financially participate, it's like, it doesn't matter what he brings to us, we're doing it. That's
And Jean, I respect your position. That wasn't how I read that, but
I am okay with this. If we, that word negotiate makes a huge difference to me.
I believe, Kirk, that would really be the next step, is to get the engagement letter.
The next step's the same regardless how this is. I think it's just making sure that the board is comfortable with the way this is worded. The next steps are all the same, get the engagement letter from them, get all the details. And when the board's comfortable, then we sign the contract. So whatever the board's comfortable with, go with that.
It's going to be what it's going to be. I read it a little differently. To me, I think what you're looking for today that's of the most value is to be able to go to these other municipalities and say, the county's in. The county's in for, a certain amount or roughly a certain amount, then they know we're serious and they know the effort is serious. That's kind of how the South, I don't see much difference between this and how Southbridge representation was handled. So maybe I'm missing a nuance or something, but I think that the making of some type of financial commitment is going to be the strong signal to the municipalities. I want them all to be in. So, which all of that's just perspective. My question is this, Brian. So when would you need to hear from us? What is the timetable that we're operating under with the other actors, say the legislature and any other, not the municipalities, but the folks who we are targeting? Is there a legislative calendar? Is there something driving the schedule on this?
A lot has been done in really the past 30 days. This issue has gotten more attention in the past 30 days than I think it has gotten in a very long time. So I think the momentum is really now. I think the way it looks to me as well is because I think this is truly both a Republican and Democrat issue as it's being viewed because of where it's coming from and the different municipalities that are speaking up about and all the rest. So I think it took a lot for the administration to come out, through Secretary Redding so boldly and really say what we all knew. But so things are moving very, very quickly is what I would tell you. The time to get input into the process is now, because there's such a level of interest that I really don't think that they're already talking about, legislative amendments being drafted. And, when you get into that point, you don't want it to go too far through that hearing process without trying to get some of the points that you want to see covered into the process.
So thank you for that. If we take the approach, we're going to enter into a negotiation, as was stated earlier, how long does that take? Anybody know?
Brian, can you have us an engagement letter later this week, possibly for the board to look at next week?
Oh, sure. I'm going to use the exact same one that was previously used. So I'll just change what we're doing and add the scope into it, which I've already done for the joint fee sharing agreement. So you can really have it by the end of this week. Yeah.
That sounds very reasonable. And Commissioner Eichelberger, you and I were both here for the 83 lawsuit, and certainly the board did not enter into that agreement within 24 hours. I think we talked about that for at least a month before we moved it forward. And there was significantly more money involved at that point in time. So yes, if I think if we can get an engagement letter right away, that would be very helpful.
And to reiterate what I'm sensing from the legislature, it is moving quickly, and there's a task force, and I think the representatives, the House representatives that we have in Cumberland County are all engaged in that, or at least 2, 3 are very engaged in that. The Senate is engaged in it, but I haven't witnessed when people change legislation, and I don't want to be the one that then ultimately the county has to do the inspections or be burdened with something that they could put in there that would require us costs going forward. I don't know if that happens. I'm not sure. It seems to happen somehow that we wind up doing the work of the state. I would imagine we could wind up with work from DEP, doing DEP's work as well. So I'm comfortable to modify, if we want to modify the proposed motion, and unless there are other questions, I'm comfortable with that. If you would like to do that.
So I just want to ask one follow-up question to Salzman Hughes. There's not a mention here about lobbying. Will there be a lobbying effort on your part to affect legislation?
Right, that's a great question. So generally when there's an exemption to the lobbying law regarding municipal solicitors. So that does not constitute lobbying when you're representing local governmental bodies. So that's the work. So this would not constitute a lobbying effort in that we're representing municipalities.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Are we ready? Are you ready? Okay, and I'm going to do it with yes.
So
please.
I guess my only question would be, who would we be contracting with, South Middleton or Salzman and Hughes?
Salzman and Hughes.
So I think that would probably be the only thing that would need to be changed then.
Yeah, you would need to sign a rep letter, an engagement agreement with Salzman Hughes in order that we can freely share with you and make sure it's protected by attorney, as strategy will be discussed in executive sessions or whenever, so that we can clearly be able to do that with you. It really needs to be an engagement with us, which is separate than the joint fee sharing agreement and representation agreement we have with the municipalities. That's how we structured it in I-83 case.
Okay. What I'm really moving to do is to negotiate a contract with Salzman and Hughes to participate in the effort to research and investigate. Am I going not to exceed 17,250?
Yes.
I would definitely leave that a little more open personally.
Just no dollar amount? Okay. No dollar amount?
We could say with an intent to make a financial commitment.
All right, let me give this a shot. So I'm going to move to negotiate a contract with Salzman Hughes to participate in the effort to research and investigate the legal, regulatory, and political framework of the food processing residual issue in the county, with intent to finish it, Gary.
With an intent to make a financial commitment toward resolution.
With an intent to make financial commitment towards resolution.
Motion's on the table.
I just wanted to ask Kirk, does that get us what we need for now, in your opinion?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, cool. All right. I'll second that.
Moved and seconded, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Thank you. That was a team effort. Thank you all.
Thank you, commissioners.
Team effort, right? This is a very serious issue in the
It is.
county, very serious. Corey, I don't want you to think that by questioning this, I think that I'm being dismissive. I'm not
Not
at
at
all. Not at all.
Not at all,
That's-
Jean.
Yeah, no, from our perspective, we don't see that whatsoever. This is a serious issue, and we should all be going into it fully knowledgeable and understanding of everything that's involved. These are our mutual constituents, and we all have to look out for them, and that's exactly what you're doing. So we appreciate you even considering this, and we look forward to having a lot of good discussions.
I'll just add, I think South Middleton is to be commended for taking a lead on this and making an absolute financial commitment as well. I think it's also important for us, our budget situation is well known, and for us to put some limits on and encourage others to step up, I think is also very responsible on the county's part. And we're not just saying, no way, we can't afford it or anything of that nature. It's a key issue. All of us have received phone calls on it and have engaged in extensive conversations on the topic, but you guys are the right people to lead.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you both for your time. Thank you, Kirk. We will move on to the second item for the Cumberland Area Economic Development Quarterly Update. Is for you.
Oh, yeah, I have more handouts than I thought. It's the end of the year. Got lots of good stuff. Keep peddling my new visitors guides.
I'm gonna go get a hot water. Just go ahead.
Her husband's a teacher.
I gotta walk around with handouts.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to come and update you. It's been about 6 months since we've been here, actually. We were here last time a quarter ago, but that was to ask for our budget. So this is the first time since that we have updated you. Some of the data is 6 months worth, and some of it is more relevant to the time. This one. And
You may have, yeah, okay.
there we go. Oh, no.
You have press that again.
Again?
Yeah, press that. Oh, it's done. Oh, now it's done. To click on the screen.
There we go. Which one did you?
Oh, it's, yeah, just
This one?
this one, and I'm sorry, did I go 1 too far? No, because I
No,
didn't hit it
you're-
twice. Okay, 1.1.
I'm not going to read this to you, so I'll hit some highlights for you. Staff continues to work and build relationships with our state offices, both the legislators as well as DCED and others, to make sure that we are building those relationships and representing well the constituents here in Cumberland County. We will be attending the upcoming PETA conference in Harrisburg, April 15 to 17. We'll have at least 2 or 3 staff there where we'll meet the state officials and regional folks so that we can hear best practices and what's coming from the state's new strategic plan that they put in place. We have met with over 36 businesses in the last 3 months and that have had an uptick in leads. We have 1 new loan in the pipeline, 1 approved and 1 closed. Grant requests continue, and that is for mostly small grants, which we have very few dollars. Okay. I've just said twice. All
Funky.
right. Attraction continues to be a small part of what we are doing at CADIC, but we focus most of our resources on retention and growth of existing businesses. With that said, we have been meeting with folks that are doing site selection on a fairly regular basis to talk about what Cumberland County brings to the table. And we are in the process of developing an ad along with the state to go into facilities management. We are working with our local partners, economic development partners, to expand knowledge of what we do at CADIC and how we can work more closely with them. And we've had 2 local plant closings, and we're working with our local regional partners to help the employees find new employment opportunities.
Janet, when you said to those closures and you talk about retention, was there anything that could have been done to retain those entities?
So in both cases, I'm going to say no, we were unaware of those closures. One was an outright sale, the other was an outright closure, moving to outsourcing of products. So I wish we could have helped them and would have been able to save them, but the state would have had to have been the big heavy lifter in that case.
Do we know if Governor's Action Team was involved with Residual?
Governor's Action Team was involved after the fact. So in an effort to look at the property and what could be saved there, and then the workforce development boards through the career links are helping, and rapid response are helping with the employment. In an effort to serve our local businesses and clients, we have purchased 2 new software packages, one called Presta that will specifically help us in loans and allow us to package, review, underwrite, close, and service those loans more efficiently and consistently, so that we don't leave so much to the individual that's in the position, but we have a consistent process. We also have purchased ImPlan, which is an economic impact product that will share how those loans and grants will impact tax revenue and other sales within the county. That ImPlan has been around for a very long time. And I mentioned yesterday in our board meeting when I first came on, we still had the books and discs. This is an upgrade to that so that we're actually able to do it through online.
You can have multiple people trained on that.
We will have multiple people trained on that. Actually, even our tourism folks we're going to have someone in tourism.
Some good information on the tourism sites.
And those, can that be used also to supplement through performance measures? Be able to get more specific, something to think about. Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it can or not, but as we focus on industries, there certainly is an opportunity to look at things like that. You know, what industries have the biggest economic impact in Cumberland
It's a great
County.
program. I'm glad.
Right. I'm excited to have it on board. It will help us make the case for certain grants and loans as we go forward. Staff continues to build relationships with local banks, which is key. And I will tell you, in just the last 3 weeks, we have, because of some of the new relationships with our new staff, we have had several loan prospects come through that venue, which we had been lacking. So we're excited. We're excited to have that occur. We also have participated in various meetings, conferences, seminars, presentations to continue not only to build relationships, but share what it is that CADIC is doing and overcome some misinformation that has been out there. Staff assisted, this is our grants page, and staff has assisted with several grant applicants in their submission for the local share account, both statewide and category 4. We had 18 grants submitted through that process, and they totaled over $11 million. The statewide totaled over $11 million. We also we assisted with the submission of 9 redevelopment assistance capital program grants, RACPs, as they're lovingly known for. There were 21 in Cumberland County submitted in total, and they come out to over $55 million. Most of those would use either the IDA or CADIC as their sponsor, and we have less than 52 million available. So we patiently await for the state to approve those and hope that we have the funds needed. We also have 20 RACPs that are in process that we continue to service, and those total over $24 million. So given the 21 that were submitted recently, that is double what we had in the past.
Janet, I'll have something that at the end, when we talk about questions, a suggestion as it relates to RACP then and involves the Board of Commissioners.
Okay. The Real Estate Collaborative has been very busy of late. You may know the former Tyco property that we own here in Carlisle. We finally have an environmental covenant secured for that property, which was the last thing in the way of selling that property for a project. So we're excited that that has gotten past. The unfortunate part of that is that it has delayed the start of the project because it took us so long in negotiations with the Tyco corporate folks. The former Kuhn property, as we call it, right next to or adjacent to the Tyco property, is in the final stages of their environmental covenant. And we do have a sales interest agreement that we are negotiating. And then finally, the Frog Switch property, which is a 27+ acre property in both Carlisle and South Middleton. We have a letter of intent to purchase. The purchase agreement is nearly finished. There was a health issue that has precluded us from finishing that. We expect that'll happen very soon. And we'll have then a sales agreement in place. We are continuing to apply for grants on behalf of that site so that we may go in and do the environmental remediation that may need to be done, the assessment to determine what that looks like, and then finally what can be put on that property. Our goal is to have a master developer come in then and develop that property in a way that that fits what the borough needs and what they're looking for, as well as the community at large. We do, and this is very exciting, have an EPA commitment to help us with both phase 1 and phase 2. That is huge. It doesn't happen all the time. And we have the state Department of Community and Economic Development. We've had 2 groups on that site to talk to us about how we fund some of the projects going forward.
Janet, how's it zoned?
So it is now zoned on the Carlisle side as mixed use. They just changed it. So our Alliance program is one of the ways we bring revenue into CADIC. Our invoicing is out for what we call the Reimagined Cumberland Valley Alliance. We have done a communication plan, or are in the process of developing and finalizing a communication plan to attract new investors. We have a list of over 300 potential new investors that we hope to reach out to in the coming months. And we have a list of events, starting with one in the spring for our diamond level investors. And then our signature event, which is the golf outing, and our event in the fall, which is an economic development. And then also our lunch and learns throughout the year that we do, allowing our alliance members to sponsor and or be the speakers. Finally in the economic development side on workforce development, we have been forming a regional partnership around future education needs for workers and how Cumberland County can be prepared or ensures that our residents are prepared for those needs and demands. That is a regional effort with the SCPA Works, which is our local workforce development board, Shippensburg University, Franklin County Economic Development, and Emerge Education. So it's a nice group of folks working together, and we're looking at best practices across the state and other places. I mentioned the 2 closings, that too, while challenging for those individuals impacted and the communities at large, that has led to some additional regional partnerships to assist those folks that were impacted, including the Carlisle Chamber Career and Job Fair and the Career Link. We've been able to link that up, and we'll be taking DB Schenker folks through that career fair and also attracting businesses that might be interested in picking those folks up to that job fair. So the first time that since I've been here that we've been able to pull something like that off. Finally, under the area of administration, and you'll notice this is probably our hardest to read slide because we've been spending a lot of time on the administrative side of CADIC over the last couple of years. We are trying to rebuild the foundation, and we are making great strides in that area, but it's taking some time. We are not unlike other businesses in Cumberland County. Recruiting can be a challenge, and we're excited that we have 2 new additional employees, and we're finalizing conversations for a 3rd economic development senior level economic development manager or director level. And then, we're just, devoting a lot of time with our board, with our committees, and the work that they're doing to make sure that CADIC is strong coming forward. On the area of finance, just to update you on a couple of things, we are in the midst of both the CCIDA, as we are the staff for that organization, audit, and the CCIDA put out for RFP this year. They opened up their audit and looked for proposals to bring on a new auditor. They did that. That's taking an awful lot of additional time because you're teaching the history of the organization to the new auditor. So we continue to pursue that, but it looks like our timeline might be short. The CADIC audit is moving along fine. Both are moving, but the one is just a little slower than normal. And then this is the time of year where we do a lot of quarterly and annual reporting. So we've been spending a lot of time on the finance side in that reporting.
Janet, did they bid the audit because they were dissatisfied, or it was just time to bid it?
It was a long time since they had done it, so it was more about that. We probably could have used another year with the and planned better, but it was time. So
thank you. Yeah. So switching over to tourism and marketing, I did include all of the data and metrics that you're used to seeing from last year in 2023. Just so you have them, but I did, since it was our first meeting for the year, want to zoom out a little and provide a little context on why the tourism and marketing team tracks all of those crazy numbers that you see. So we're really trying to do 3 things. We're trying to attract, engage, and grow the destination. So our primary way to attract new visitors is through our advertising efforts, our PR and communication strategies, and our destination sales. So when we're looking for metrics, top metrics for that mission, the number 1 is occupancy. Occupancy is difficult though, because we get it so delayed.
And there's also so many other things that can impact occupancy that are out of our control. So that's why we also equally look at impressions. Really, that just means eyeballs on our advertising and our media stories, whether that be for KDIC as an organization, economic development efforts, or travel stories. And then engagement, we're really talking about engaging with visitors while they're here. We're talking about engaging locals and residents so they know what to do in the area and love where they live. We're also talking about engaging tourism partners and also businesses in the county that could use our economic development services as well. So our primary efforts there really are 2 websites, the tourism and the economic development sites, our visitor services efforts, which are really collateral, visitor center, distribution, our social media across economic development and tourism, our newsletters, and then our experience trails. And our really key metrics for tracking those is traffic to our websites. They're our #1 way in for people to learn about us. Engagement, I'm using as an umbrella term. There's a bunch of numbers under engagement, but for us, it all rolls up to show that people are interacting with our social media channels. They're opening and clicking through on our newsletters, and to see that our businesses are willing and excited to participate in our trails. And then finally, we're trying to grow the destination through our tourism grants. So with our new tourism grants back up and running, the key metrics we're currently looking at is the grant amount awarded and the total project cost. So I just wanted to kind of provide that overview, and then I'll go into the normal report, but I'm not going to get in the weeds, and you can certainly ask me anything you want about the numbers. So switching to our objective around developing a cohesive brand for KDIC, this has been a long time coming, I'd say, but we are working through the brand study with our advertising agency. They held focus groups and a survey went out to all of our partners. So they're in their recommendations phase. So we're excited to see that soon. And we really embarked on a renewed effort to reach out to our tourism partners in 2023. And that's going to be a big focus for 2024. We held quarterly lodging meetings last year and brought new people into those. We also started hosting tourism industry roundtables last year that were successful, and we're going to keep doing more of that this year. And then for the first time, we developed a events calendar that I gave you all a copy of. This is really meant for our tourism partners, our lodging partners, restaurant shops. It's not really visitor resident facing, but to show them all the events that we see coming this year and beyond that are going to impact visitation to their businesses. And then it of course includes our events that they can participate in. Looking at our grants, so again, we launched these at the end of 2023, but the committees approved 5 projects last year with the total grant agreement of over $500,000 and the total project cost of $830,000. Agreements for these grants are being finalized. This is a new application, new agreement, new process, so we're working through those agreements. But I did want to let you all know that our team continues to meet with new projects weekly, and I know we have 3 more to review at our next tourism committee meeting. Switching to advertising, so this kind of wraps up last year's advertising, and again, I'm not going to get in the weeds, but the big number here is that 62 million impressions. So that ties back to that top metric I said we look at to make sure we're reaching as many people as we can in our target markets. That's a 2% increase year over year. And then usually our advertising cannot be tied directly to room nights, but in the example of Expedia, it can. So they can track people that see their ads and then actually book in our county. So I included that because we don't often get to see that direct impact, but I want to include it. Also wanted to hit the highlight that we did a consumer perception study at the end of 2023. We hadn't done this since 2015. Both of the studies were conducted in a very similar way though on purpose, so we can make some comparisons. And both times the vendor conducting the study gave us a net promoter score, which is a lot of questions and answers from survey respondents that go into how likely they are to recommend our destination. We got a 41% this time. We got a 20-something, I can't remember exactly what we had last time, but our advertising agency noted that anything over 25 is considered great. So we were really excited to see how high above great we were. Switching to our lodging report. So I usually include this for you all for the quarter. So I included November, December, and January. This is our off season, and I'm just very excited to show you how much green is on this chart. This is the most green we've had in a while. Especially to see that in our off season is really exciting to see. As I mentioned earlier too, it's hard for us to see our impact on occupancy, but I can certainly translate our efforts for sports in November to that high occupancy. We saw a 10.9% increase for Carlisle and a 34% increase in occupancy for Shippensburg in November, and we believe that to be directly tied to the NCAA cross country events. And then another success I wanted to note that looking at January numbers, we have access to our 7-county region, and we were the only county in our region for January with positive occupancy growth. So I wanted to share that success as well. Looking at our trails, really the highlight here is we had just shy of 80 partners participate on our 4 trails last year. So we were able to really give extra special high-level promotion to 80 partners. And we had over 13,000 check-ins for all of those trail partners this year. So that's really, to me, showing that we're driving people to our businesses that might not often get the chance to be promoted at that high level for tourism. Again, I mentioned our website. So the highlight here is that traffic continues to increase. Visit Cumberland Valley, the tourism site, had a 36% increase in overall traffic compared to the prior year. And switching to our sales efforts, this is really where we're driving room nights. So as I mentioned, cross country we held in November that produced, I think it was closer to 2,500 room nights we suspected. We also assisted with PIAA for the second year. That was there the same weekend. So that was a big weekend in Cumberland Valley. And Keystone Aquatics also had a swimming event kind of staggering the same days. So we were very booked that weekend in November. I also wanted to highlight that Big 33 submitted a grant through our tourism grants for the next 3 years. And we were announced as one of their key sponsors at their press conference the other day. So we're really excited to be working with them and bring that event to Cumberland Academy and Cumberland Valley High School. Again, I'm not going to go through all this, but as I mentioned before, impressions is one of those numbers that we can really try to have an impact on. So our media impressions for 2023 were way up. We had over 195 million through the 45 stories. Those include economic development and travel destination stories. And we just started distributing our new visitors guide, which I brought you all a copy for. We sent a newsletter out and in a couple of days had over 800 requests just from that one newsletter. So we're so excited to get those rolling. Social media and newsletters, this is our primary way to engage with people. So again, I just included some of our top metrics. The highlight here is that they're up and we're seeing an increase in the real views, which is video views. So people are taking time to view our content. It's not just people that are following us every day. They're really getting a bigger reach. And I have to do a plug for Meal Madness that starts March 4th. So this is our 3rd year of the successful campaign to try to figure out the best restaurant in Cumberland Valley. And there's quite the staff poll going on. So we're excited to see it, but the brackets out there if you want to try to predict your guess as well. And then also cumberlandbusiness.com, we do all the marketing and behind the scenes efforts to keep that site relevant and with new content. The key takeaway here is that our staff spent most of last year preparing for a new website for Cumberland Business. That's been a long time coming. And we're in the phase of just moving all the content over. So I'm hoping there'll be a new cumberlandbusiness.com in the next month or 2. But even with all that, traffic was still up if we're looking at January. So still seeing it.
Kristen, how did the gift guide go?
Gift guide went great. We did it a little differently this year, and we kind of packaged some of the items together to kind of create big gift baskets that I think were more incentivizing to participate in commenting. So it went well. And that's a nice way to throw some promotion at our shops. That's such a wide-reaching group of people. And it also allows us to partner with some of the chambers because they do a lot of shop local promotion around the same time.
Janet, the one thing that occurred to me recently, and I'll jump back to the RACP. So we've been getting asked for letters of support. And I was thinking perhaps it might be good if we could establish a process whereby once the RACP items or the requests are submitted, because I know that's like a frenzy at that time, you're going a little crazy. But once they've been submitted, perhaps we could arrange time with all, or you could offer to all of the folks that you worked with on RACPs to come before the board and give us like a 5-minute presentation about what their RACP request is. And then if they're going to ask for a letter of support, we could do that all in one fell swoop and then do the letters kind of in one fell swoop.
Sure.
And kind of put a little process behind that if, because they've been coming in dribs and drabs to us.
Sure.
And they don't have to do it if they don't want a letter of support. But I'm thinking that if we're going to get them, maybe we could do it in a more coordinated fashion.
And maybe there's something we can incorporate with, for you all within plan for each of those projects too.
And I was going to ask if you're using that at all for the tourism grants. Can it be applied to the tourism grants?
So, I think you mentioned that. This was one little bullet. I didn't hit it. We looked into that possibly. It doesn't really function that way, but on the tourism side, we are rejoining Destinations International this year, and that comes with a calculator that's specifically for sports events, meetings, conferences, and local festivals and fairs. So with that software, we'll be able to plug our events in and see their economic impact and their potential room count. So I think that's really going to help us be more fair and compare apples to apples when we're doing our tourism grants. Great. Yeah, so that we should have that up in the next couple of weeks.
We're trying to get more data driven in our process.
Does anyone have any questions of?
I'm gonna go check out the itineraries on the microsite,
Oh, thank you.
see what you've got planned.
Impressive range of activities and very nice numbers to see. So thank you very much for that.
Janet, the only other thing then that I would add is, I have an interest in the CPS program and trying to figure out if that's a good fit for us to participate in Cumberland County. And so I'm hoping that maybe you and Kirk Stoner, I think, had kind of looked at that before. Maybe we could revisit it. I think that there are ways that we could potentially participate that would not be onerous to the county in engaging on that. So
I like it from the perspective it gives us something that not every other county has. So,
and I think with the interest rate environment such that it is, I think it could be a really meaningful component to a project. So
it might also help us attract a certain group of an industry cluster to the area that wouldn't go somewhere else. So there's some good opportunities there. I think for looking at that.
Perfect.
Good.
All right.
Anything else?
Thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Thank you
For your time.
Thank you. Carolyn. So you are the next up.
I didn't know if you got printed folded copies of this or not, but it makes it a little easier to read.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm just here to give you an update on our conditional grant progress for 2024, 5 new grants. And as a reminder of those grants, I put the goals, summarize them in the inside of the little brochure that you've got. So that'll help you remember what they're all about. And then I put some bullet points of things that, so let's see if this will work. Yeah, some bullet points of things that we've done toward each one. This has been January and February are sort of our close things down from last year. gathering statistics, reporting things to the state, and starting things up for the new year. So we're just starting to get to this all in earnest, but I wanted to talk about the section down in the bottom right-hand corner where it says planning tools. We have been using Microsoft 365, the Teams portion, to get everybody on board with all these projects. So we've set up folders where they can collect all their information and post areas where they can coordinate conversations. So that's a lot of what we've been doing, is setting the tone for the year to get these projects underway. And then like I said, each of these areas tells you a little bit about what we've been up to. So under genealogy, just getting the paperwork filed, and I was hoping by the end of February, but that's tomorrow. So early March, we'll be getting getting that software onto computers and getting people to get some experience with it on the staff, so that they can start training and educating the public. So we're just getting started with that family search library. I wrote family search. Oh, no, it is right. Family search, family history library. Municipal relationships. We used the county site. Thank you to whoever made that. And we collected all the information about the municipalities in Cumberland County, made a nice a spreadsheet where they could document who's going to take ownership of which meetings. And we've set up, one of our libraries has set up a training for their board to get some information on how to connect with municipal leaders. We also have a countywide, the library system created an advocacy toolkit, which has templates for them to put their statistics, so they can use those during community conversations. If they want to go speak at a public meeting, for instance. So this group is the group is the directors, and the directors are working on outlining the goals and learning what to do with those marketing tools in the near future. Under the inventory project, this is one, I think even when I brought it to you in December, I said there's some uncertainty in terms of the timeline with this. We have a down payment on inventory control wands, but they had been unable to provide them to us. And they said they hope to have them by March 2024. So I don't know if that means March 1 or the end of March, but we are already working on some contingency plans in case they don't come through with these inventory wands. I just got an update today on another company that provides them, that we might be able to work with. And we've got a couple of ideas of ways we can still do this project, even if we don't get the equipment that we think would make it the easiest to do, the one that we were counting on. But I did, because of that delay, I did negotiate a 12-month subscription on the software that goes with those wands to start when we get the wands and get trained on the wands. So when we're up and running, we'll have a 12-month no-cost subscription because they've delayed our project. So that was it seems like a nice perk. It's be a nicer perk when we actually have them in hand. So.
Well, and I think that Carolyn is being a little bit modest. They had offered 12 months starting, now. And she was very firm and pushed back, no, 12 months when we get the wands.
That's kind of ridiculous. I don't need free software right now. I don't have equipment to go with it. So the president of the company agreed and rewrote the negotiation. And so we're looking forward to that. Thank you.
Yes.
With the compensation study for our member libraries, we have identified 4 companies that we think we may be able to work with. And we have a small team who's working on outlining the goals for the project, so we can express those to these companies and ask them for quotes. And so we'll be soliciting those hopefully by the end of this month, the upcoming month, March. And finally, with the continuity of operations plans, the library directors were provided access to a book that a publication from the American Library Association called Libraries as Safe Haven, Disaster Planning, Response, and Recovery, a how to do it manual. And so it really lays out everything about emergency planning and goes into these coops. And so we've spent some time discussing what the difference is between an emergency plan and a coop. There's some distinction between the two, and so there was some misunderstanding there as to what we were doing. And because of that, libraries have started sharing with each other in that team's environment their emergency plans, so they can see what, nobody knew what another library had planned, and we thought that would be really good for them to feed off each other and perhaps enhance their own emergency preparedness plans. I did share with them 2 templates, one being the county's template and one from the Pennsylvania Department of Education on coops. And we've decided to take those templates and kind of pull the best of each. So, and anything we might learn in this book. So putting that together and developing our own coop, but that was something, and again, an understanding we had to come to, that we weren't going to have each library write their own plan. We definitely want them to have something that looks the same. So if there is an emergency, we know exactly where to go to get the information. And so we're going to be narrowing that down. I have talked with Michelle at the Department of Public Safety about doing training with our library directors. And so I need to follow up with her. But back when we were planning this, that was one of my initial asks, and she said they would be able to help us with that. So that's kind of where we stand right now. Like I said, a lot of background and planning and putting things together and making sure everybody knows where to find all the information they need to carry out these projects. We do have dates set up with the Commissioner's Office for our next 3 quarterly updates on this. I did want to put in a small plug, so I put in a graphic right in here for National Library Week is coming up in April. So we're hoping to get a proclamation of, reached out today to communications on that. And the only other thing I want to share with you today, and it has nothing to do with these conditional grant goals, but it sort of ties back to our RFID project. And I'm going to pass this picture around. But if you walk down to Bosler and go in the back parking lot, you'll see this monstrous machine.
Oh, I did see, I saw that the other day when I was driving by, and I noticed it because of the pop of color.
Yeah, this was also, and I think it's sort of is also it's from the same company that owes us the ones. They reached out an olive branch and said, hey, we know you're interested in these. Would you consider a 6-month trial? We will deliver it. They rented the forklift and apparently drove it down one of the streets of Carlisle. So drove this thing down and put it in place. We had to put in the cement pad because it's mounted in there. It's not going to topple over. We had to put in the electric and the network wiring for it. But it is a heat control. It's climate controlled. It has heat and air conditioning built into it. It's connected to our library system, so people can choose to put things on hold in there, and the staff fill it, and then people can come 24 hours a day, scan their library card, the bin opens up and delivers their material. So it is a 6-month trial, but they're already thinking this is something they need to keep, and then they would pay for it. So it would be an expense to the Bosler Library to pay for that, but it seems like a no-brainer that it's something that's really been needed there. It's lighted, it's got security built into it. It's really a fantastic piece of machinery, and it's expandable. It's a modular unit. So down in the bottom right-hand corner of it, that what looks like a big bin is a book return, but their book return's right around the corner. So if they purchase it, they can replace that with bins to do pickup of materials. So we're really excited about it. I didn't want to let this meeting pass without telling you about it and encouraging you to be like Kelly and go down to the library and see it for yourself. Yeah, they up until their most exciting addition was a book drop, which was also exciting. They had not had an outside book drop since they remodeled, and that had gotten the most social media coverage of anything they'd done in a long time. So who knew they needed? And that was a donation from one of their longtime donors. Gave them the money to put in that. So, you know, we're hoping that this will become a permanent fixture. So do you have, not, I mean, you can ask me questions about this, but about my update, do you have any questions about the 5 grant projects?
I believe I do. So that's kind of like an Amazon box, a little bit for books.
Yeah.
From the library, but yet it also, it dispenses and could collect if you chose to.
Right,
So
right. Currently it does collect.
is there any consideration given to, I mean, I guess somebody would have to go and fill the boxes if you had one in a more remote location.
So I'm glad that Bosler is testing this for themselves and, you know, checking it out. But my hope is that every library will take a look at this and perhaps embrace it as something they want at their libraries, and to share out. That ties into the grant with the municipalities and boroughs. It is absolutely possible that these could be put in communities. There is a huge expense that would come with that. The machine itself, or the, I don't know if you call it, yeah, I guess you call it a machine. It's got climate control. So yeah, the machine itself has a big ticket price, but also they have to be a spoke on our network. And that's probably the most complicated thing, is we would have to take our computer network and get it out to that municipality or that business or wherever it's being housed. Or at least that's how we think it will have to work. And, you know, we know how much we pay just to keep we have connections to all of the libraries and to the county courthouse and ourselves. And we know what that costs us. And so I don't know that we could directly afford out of our own coffers to pay to get it out to municipalities, but perhaps a municipality would find this intriguing enough. I'm sure you're familiar with the Hamden Township project that we've been doing, and other townships see that, really like to do that. They are just so conveniently on our delivery route, and they've been so cooperative about their staff working with us that was able to happen. But other places it would take a little more effort. There's also the same company and many other companies sell book dispensing units, which is also, you know, it's one of those, when we think about future of libraries, that's something we think about, is what if it was something like this, except it's just pre-filled with a bunch of materials, and you like a red box, you pick out what you want to read and it drops it and it's checked out to you. That would be another possibility for communities, and maybe even a more viable possibility, because it wouldn't have to be visited every day. This is extremely convenient because it's right outside Bosler, but they are designed to be put anywhere. So
Carolyn, I know
nothing is
that
impossible.
you had served as a warming station. I guess some of the libraries service warming stations. Was that anything that was utilized much, do you know, over this winter was relatively mild, but
Yeah, not that I mean, directly, not that I'm aware of. We don't usually have people self-identify that's why they're in our libraries, but we do get positive feedback from people that they like knowing that is a possibility. We've had some questions about that labeling of warming station, like, are you handing out food? Are you handing out blankets? And that's not something that we currently provide at any of our libraries, but we do provide comfortable seating, things to do. You know, you can go read or use a computer. You could also do puzzles. You could also listen to an audiobook. You could download a movie and watch it. So, you know, there's chess and all sorts of things you could do in the library. So, so we hope people are, but we don't really have data on that's exactly the reason that people show up. Thank you. Welcome.
any other questions, Carolyn?
No questions. I just wanted to mention, you know, the intent of the program, the conditional grants program, was to promote that concept of the library of the future, make libraries more relevant to a broad range of people. I really like the programs that are coming out of this. Like this little report too. So that's,
Great.
and so I think the effort's tracking very, very well. And you'll see the results of it over the long haul.
Terrific. Yeah, somebody just mentioned to me the other day that we're planning our statewide conference and they said, your conditional grant project with the commissioners would be a great example to share with the rest of the state of a way that the libraries and county commissioners can work together. I thought, maybe not this year, but I'll consider speaking about it in the future. So, yeah, it's definitely impactful.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kirsten. All right, is there any other business to come before us today? Does not appear. Motion for adjournment? We are adjourned.